This is not going to be your traditional video on releasing trigger points or myofascial release. I'm going to give you a new perspective on highly specific types of trigger points, which is what we're going to call them for now until we define them better later in the video. You see, most people are generally aware of the idea of trigger points, muscle knots, and the general idea of releasing tissues or muscles that are tight via foam rolling or using a lacrosse ball, massage therapy, things like that. They usually are aware there's something like a muscle knot in a sensitive area, so they grab a foam roller or a lacrosse ball and they just kind of roll out that area hoping for the best and to find the sensitive spot. But this is oftentimes a shotgun approach that is not optimal. Instead, let's shift our perspective to thinking about a new type of trigger point, and these are called centers of coordination. You see, a few decades ago, a man named Luigi Stecco out in Italy first developed this idea. Stecco proposed that fascia, this connective tissue that we're all vaguely aware of for the most part, is not passive. It is an active structure. Muscles do not work in isolation. Fascia helps muscles work through multiple force vectors to transmit tension throughout the entire body. So muscles and different areas of the body can work together in a coordinated fashion. Every movement in a given plane of motion, let's say raising your arm overhead, off to the side, pulling your leg up, pulling your ankle up or down, you get the idea, requires coordination between specific fascial planes. However, when this sliding becomes disrupted for some reason, whether that be injury, inflammation, poor movement patterns over time, then we have receptors that are embedded within our fascia that start to work less efficiently. So the input or output going into or out of the receptors can start to become hypersensitive or dull depending on the context. This can result in pain or altered movement patterns over time. So what centers of coordination are highly specific points within a given area of your body where multiple of these vectors converge and are responsible for coordinating movement in a given plane of motion, i.e. lifting your arm overhead or off to the side. When these specific centers become tight or densified, you can think of it like that, then it's going to disrupt the natural coordination of movement in that given plane. So by releasing these, you can oftentimes see really positive effects, releasing the ability to move through a given plane without having to go searching for a bunch of different muscle knots or trigger points, because you're really addressing the root cause of what's going on within that tissue. Now, typically in the Stecco methodology, a practitioner like a manual therapist or a physical therapist releases these specific points on a patient or a client. But I found that even through self-release of these specific points, you can see a lot of really good things happen. Now, there are some points, and many points to be honest with you, that are better released by someone else, but there are specific points, especially as we're going to focus on today within the shin, the foot, and the ankle, that are really helpful to release on your own, and it can result in a lot of pain relief and a lot of movement freedom. I'm going to show you the top 3 points in these areas that I've consistently found are densified and need to be released, but there's a specific way we need to do it, and it's going to depend on the area that we talk about. But the underlying theme across all of these is we're going to take our knuckle and we're going to dig into these points. It's not going to feel super awesome, but somewhere between about 2 to 4, maybe upwards of 5 minutes later, you're going to notice that these points start to release and you're applying the same pressure. However, it's much less sensitive. And that's how you know you've gotten a release of that specific area and center of coordination. You may notice during that first 2 minutes, it might get a little bit worse. And if it's ever anything you can't tolerate or is painful, definitely do not push into that too much. It should be uncomfortable. It should make you squirm a little bit, but it shouldn't be so much to the point where it is painful. Do not push through actual literal pain. So after releasing these, you might feel a little bit better. That would be the goal. But what you're going to notice is something interesting happen. Somewhere between 24 to 48 hours later, the inflammation process is going to really kick in. You're going to notice the next day or the day after that, you actually kind of feel a little bit tighter and inflamed, obviously, and worse. And this is a normal part of the process. Understand that it is completely fine if the next day you feel a little bit more off, because your body is healing that area. So just expect maybe 72 hours later, you should really expect to see the release of that area. So I wouldn't work again on that same area for about 3 to 4 days after that, maybe even 5, depending on how sensitive it was for you, because you want to give your body time to heal, and then you can go back into it later. So now we're about to get into those 3 points, but if you want a more extensive guide that I'm going to be releasing on other areas of the body, you can let me know down below in the comments which area you want me to do a video on. But also, you can get on my email list because soon I'm going to be releasing a guide for multiple different areas of the body that will have all these different centers of coordination to release. But it's not out yet, and if you want access and the ability to get on my email list because that's going to be coming in the next couple of weeks. This first one is going to be on the bottom side of the outside calf. And this center of coordination is more so responsible of backwards motion of the ankle like that. So what we're going to do to easily find this is just do that motion with your ankle, kind of push it down and try to flex your calf. And if you have big enough calves, then you'll be able to find the outside bottom portion of your calf right here. And this is kind of where you want to go. You want to kind of find the bottom portion of where your calf flexes off to the side a little bit. And then you want to kind of rest in this position with your foot on a bench and leg on a bench, or you can kind of get your ankle hanging off like this. Whatever is going to allow you to find the sensitive spot. And then you're going to take your knuckle and you're going to kind of start to gently dig in. You can play around with a couple of different things. You can go up and down, you can go side to side, you can go diagonally, find whatever is most sensitive. For me, it's definitely diagonally. And this is just absolutely disgusting. If you even apply, like a 3 out of 10 pressure, you can slowly build up over time, but I would not start super aggressively here. So find that pressure that you can tolerate. And remember, in the first 2 minutes, it might start to get worse. But then after somewhere for most people around that like 4-ish minute mark, it should start to get a little bit better. And the last thing I'll say is the range of motion should be pretty small. This is a highly specific point. So you want to make sure that you're not going all over the place. You're staying concentrated on that area. This next center of coordination is actually at your toes. And this is responsible for moving your toes in a kind of up and forward direction like this. So I actually find this is quite sensitive on a lot of people. So what you want to do is find the space in between your first and second toe, a little bit higher up right about here. So you can kind of pull your toes up to find those tendons here on the first and second toe, and then find that space in between them. You never want to go on the tendons themselves. You want to be right around here. And you take your knuckle and go up and down like this. And this one, especially between that first and second toe, can be pretty nasty. And then even after that, you can go in between your second and third toe and go a little bit higher up. And again, not on the tendons themselves. It's harder to stay off the tendons here, but this is also a pretty sensitive area on a lot. But I find that this one in between the first and second is oftentimes the most sensitive. This last one is located underneath what we call the metatarsal heads on the inside portion of the foot. This center of coordination is responsible for internal rotation actions or inward motions. So take your finger and try to find that bone right here. This is where your metatarsal head is. You can kind of ride it and find that it's kind of like a ridge, and then you have a bunch of like tissue underneath this. What you want to do is go just below that bone, never on the bone, but just below it. Take your knuckle and at like a 45-degree angle, not going straight in like that, not going down, not going straight up, at like a 45-degree angle underneath the bone, you can start to play around with anywhere in this region right here. This is where you're gonna find a sensitive spot in there. And once you find it, it is really something. And you can kind of dig in with your knuckle like that, pressing at a 45-degree angle, and again, go for your 2 to 4 or 5 minutes. Thank you guys for watching. If you're a regular subscriber, I know this is a little bit different type of content, so if you like this, again, let me know down in the comments below. Hope to see you guys in the next one.